This work is done for RAFI as part of the Data Science Clinic at UChicago. Our team consists of 4 undergraduate students, myself, Esther Goldberg, along with Patty Pan, Yasmin Shalim, and Sabrina Matsui. We will present in 4 parts. First, we will introduce our project and describe the problem. Then we will look into our analysis on integrator access and demographic data. Next, we will look at poultry metrics. Lastly, we will conclude with our important findings and next steps. Introduction. The meatpacking industry involves 2 types of farmers: livestock farmers who sell animals like cattle and hogs through obscure markets, and poultry farmers who operate under contracts with processing companies. Processors, also known as integrators, buy livestock and prepare it for sale. Poultry farmers face unique challenges due to their heavy reliance on integrators. Since chickens can only be transferred about 60 miles, farmers have limited processor options, leaving them with little negotiating power and often unfavorable contracts. RAFI USA is a nonprofit addressing injustices in food systems by empowering farmers through advocacy and education. For this project, we're working with RAFI's mapping tool, which identifies poultry processing plants, their operators, and accessible options in different regions. This map is color-coded by the number of integrators accessible at any point, with 1 integrator in red, 2 in yellow, and 3+ integrators in green. This tool helps farmers navigate limited access to processors and supports RAFI's mission to challenge corporate consolidation and promote fairer conditions.
There are 4 main goals from this project. The first was researching about the poultry and meatpacking industry, and from this knowledge, we determined factors such as race and income that could have a potential impact on integrator access. We then explored how these demographics respond to the available integrators. And lastly, we investigated how sales, inventory, and other agricultural corresponded with integrator access.
Throughout the last 9 weeks, we mainly focused on 2 tasks: exploring relationship between demographic information and integrator access, and the relationship between agricultural data and integrator access. We started by exploring race and foreign-born demographic data in Arkansas and North Carolina, gradually expanding to 6 South Central states, and then the whole U.S. We created visualizations and conducted regression on income, race in relation to integrator access. For agricultural data analysis, we started looking into poultry inventory and sales data in latter half of the quarter, created visualizations such as boiler concentration, and analyzed poultry sales data. Part 2, relationship between integrator access and demographic data. To compute integrator access of each county in the U.S., we experimented with 2 methods. First, we computed straight line distance from county center points to each integrator, and secondly, we randomly sampled 3 equal distance points on country bounties and computed average distance of these points to integrators. This slide shows 2 interactive visualizations that color codes counties based on integrator access. The darker the red color, the higher access to integrators. When clicking on a county, the white box will pop up showing county name and integrator accessibility from 0 to 2. Based on the visualizations, the result for integrator access is very similar, except for the second method rendered more low access in counties, possibly due to irregular county shapes, which method 1 fails to capture.
Then we created an interactive map in order to see the percentage overlap of the area of access per integrator with the zip code area alongside foreign-born farmer population statistics. The darker the blue, the higher the percentage overlap of integrator access it has, and the lighter the color, the lower the percentage. This was helpful because the data can be misleading when only looking at count of integrators each zip code has access to. For example here, the zip code selected shows that it has access to 4 integrators. However, the area of overlap is only 8%. And if we zoomed in, we would be able to see that the zip code only captures the very edges of boundaries from integrator access, which is shown by the gray areas.
To focus on the race demographic, we plotted distribution of white population in Arkansas on zip code level and compared to the choropleth of access to integrators. We can see a correlation between low white percentage and lower number of accessible integrators in the south and east region, and this correlation exists not just for one integrator company, but across all companies in the state. Expanding the visualizations to the national level, the 2 choropleths on this slide show that integrators are present in counties with fewer Black residents and more white residents, but often absent when the reverse is true, although the exact correlation is inconclusive based on the visuals alone.
This is an interactive map that shows race demographics per county in all states that have integrators, and each state is separated by color. Each county will show its population based on selected race, its percentage, and the total count of integrators that county has within a 60-mile radius. For example, here in Jefferson County in Alabama, there's a 2.34% Asian population, and they have access to 3 integrators within a 60-mile radius. This data and map is helpful in understanding integrator access on a more granular level and makes the data and analysis more accessible, which aligns with RAFI's ultimate goal.
We analyzed race demographics and integrator access in large poultry farming states, and we will look specifically into analysis for both Arkansas and Texas. In Arkansas, our model explained 21.7% of the variance, while in Texas, it explained 23.9%. These models capture trends but leave room for other factors like geography or infrastructure. In Arkansas, the Black population negatively correlated with integrator access, suggesting reduced access in areas with higher percentages of this group. In Texas, the correlation is positive, indicating better access in these areas. These contrasting results reflect regional differences, highlighting the need to consider state-specific factors like corporate policies and infrastructure when addressing access disparities. This analysis explores how mean income correlates with integrator accessibility in large poultry farming states, and we will look into analysis for both Alabama and Georgia. In Georgia, income explains 9.5% of the variance in access, with a significant positive coefficient indicating higher income areas have better access. In Alabama, income explains only 1.1% of the variance, and the coefficient is not statistically significant, showing no meaningful relationship. These results again highlight regional and state differences, with income playing a larger role in Georgia, potentially due to differences in industry structure, policies, or processing plant distribution.
To sum up county-level ratio and income data with integrator information, we created a comprehensive visualization that's a color plot color-coded by integrator axis from low to high as the color gets darker. It also includes state boundaries in red lines, integrator locations, and parent company ownerships in colored dots, and other relevant demographic and poultry information in pop-up white boxes.
Another demographic we wanted to focus on was foreign-born farmers, meaning farmers who either do not have citizenship or have immigrated to the U.S. We focused specifically on North Carolina. The foreign-born population was calculated through multiplying the percentage of foreign-born people in a specific zip code by its farmer population. Then we conducted a regression analysis to see if there was a relationship between integrator access and foreign-born farmers. However, the results were statistically insignificant.
The next set of slides look at agricultural data to understand whether the number of integrators is based on the volume of poultry farming in the area. This analysis almost serves as a null hypothesis, which seeks to understand if a greater number of poultry operations and poultry sales indicates a higher access to integrators. If the average number of poultry operations and sales doesn't increase with access to integrators, there would likely be external factors influencing access. However, it's important to note that sales and operations with poultry inventory, the data available by the U.S. Department of Agriculture as a proxy for the number of poultry farms, is not a full indicator of how prevalent poultry farming is in an area. One of the major steps I took was compiling as many data points from PDFs and the USDA as possible to give as full of a picture of the states with a significant poultry industry and the entire nation. Operations with poultry inventory refers to farms or similar entities that slaughter chicken and other poultry animals for finished meat products. We see that Texas and the southwestern U.S. have the highest concentration of operations with poultry inventory. Ultimately, there is a statistically significant relationship between the number of poultry operations in a county and a county's access to integrators. On average, counties with more integrators have more poultry operations. For example, the difference is most profound between if a county has 0 versus 1 integrators. There are approximately 36 more poultry operations in areas with 1 integrator compared to 0. This is consistent with the idea that a higher volume of poultry farms means higher access to integrators. We see a similar significant trend with poultry sales and integrators, such that counties with a greater number of integrators have higher volume of sales. The difference is once again most profound for 0 versus 1 integrators, where the sales in counties with 1 integrator is 5.5 times that of other counties on average. Looking at the map, we see that counties in North Carolina and Virginia have the highest concentration of sales. I conducted an analysis of poultry sales and the number of poultry inventory operations segmented by farms with Black, white, and other racial group farmers and female farmers to see if the intersection of race and agricultural method had any impact on integrator access. Here are 2 sample graphs. The first is looking at the poultry sales for farms with at least 1 female farmer by county, and the second is the number of poultry operations with at least 1 Hispanic or Latino farmer by county. Ultimately, the data was so sparse, and the significance test led to insignificant values for nearly every demographic, besides demographics with only a few county data points available. Overall, this analysis is extremely limited given that data was stripped from USDA PDFs and only available for North Carolina.
Now we'll move on to conclusions and next steps. Overall, we found that race was the only statistically significant demographic that had a direct correlation with integrator access. However, the difficulty still lies in not having access to the number of farms across the country or where they are located. The analysis was conducted through proxy variables that we found to be closest to this metric.
The main conclusion is that while demographics do impact integrator access, the number of operations with poultry inventory and the volume of poultry sales have some of the strongest statistically significant impact on the number of integrators, indicating that integrator access is partially a function of how much a county needs integrators to support their volume of poultry production. The intersection of demographic and agricultural data would be helpful in understanding if there are disparities across racial groups in terms of integrator access, but unfortunately, the data was extremely limited to North Carolina and sparse for racial groups like Black farmers.
Our next steps include looking at other demographics such as education and population density, researching and applying new analysis methods such as multivariate approaches since linear regressions showed minimal relationships, combine all interactive maps onto a single API for easy data visualization access, and lastly, to continue researching and looking for poultry farm data around the country at the most granular level for future correlation analysis. Thank you.